Thinking of taking your caravan to Ireland?
A couple of months ago, we asked you for your help in deciding where we should take our caravan this year, and Ireland was one of the options, and so many of you voted for that.
So that's exactly what we're doing, and in this video we're going to share with you our top tips for taking your caravan to Ireland.
So, why Ireland?
Well, when we did our research, Ireland ticked an awful lot of boxes for us. Scenic countryside, rich history, warm hospitality and great food, and we absolutely love food.
And the other aspect for us was we wanted to try taking our caravan abroad on a ferry for the first time, and being that when you get to Ireland it feels similar, we drive on the same side of the road, we thought that that would be a good way to start.
We took the ferry from Fishguard to Rosslare, which is about a 3.5 hour crossing, but more on that later.
And we had 2 stays booked. We were staying at Blarney in County Cork and Glen of Aherlow, which is in County Tipperary, and you can watch both of those videos at the links below.
Both of those sites are Caravan Club Overseas affiliated sites, so we felt fairly confident in our choices that they would be good places to stay.
When taking your caravan to Ireland, there are a few route options to choose from, the most popular of them being Holyhead to Dublin and Fishguard to Rosslare.
Fishguard is about a 5-hour drive for us, and we live in the south of England, so that made the most sense to pick that particular route.
We had a very early start this morning, so I'm extremely grateful for this coffee. And of course, a must for any road trip is car sweets.
You're hacking our phones right now as individuals. You're hacking CIA communications generally. You could listen to the hotline into the Oval Office if you wanted to.
When arriving into Fishguard, the approach to the ferry terminal was really well signposted and very easy to navigate.
Check-in was really smooth, the staff were very friendly, and it was a really quick process.
That's it. Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you know?
You've got practice.
Just the 2 of you guys.
That's it. Yeah.
We were directed for a security check both inside the van and in the caravan, but they seemed most keen really to ensure that the gas was turned off and there were no other gas canisters inside the van.
No, they're all very friendly, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, doggos.
Our duty-free shop is now open, and you will be required to produce your boarding card if any purchases are made. Our cafe is also open with hot and cold drinks and selection of snacks.
There was a little bit of a wait on arrival before boarding, so there are some basic facilities. There are some toilets, there is a small duty-free which sells mostly booze and cigarettes, and there is a cafe. However,
now we like to be organised, and bearing in mind that the time of this ferry was 2 o'clock, we realised we'd be arriving here at about lunchtime. So last night I made up a lovely little poke bowl for us. So we've got some rice, some peppers, some prawns and some broccoli with some nice sweet teriyaki sauce. So we're going to enjoy this while we're waiting for the tannoy announcement to tell us we can board. But it's super smooth getting through here, and everybody at the ferry terminal is super friendly.
They have just done the tannoy announcement and we are about to board.
Boarding was well organised and it didn't feel rushed, and as first timers, having never taken our caravan on a ferry before, we really appreciated that.
It felt a little bit narrow driving up the ramp and onto the ferry, but we comforted ourselves in the knowledge that they squeeze lorries through that gap and onto the ferry, so we must be able to fit.
How very exciting.
Putting Tony and trailer on a ferry.
It's okay though, look, they're putting the big coaches on after us, so that's good. I think you're following that one. Yeah. 2.
Caravan. I don't know what that says.
Uh-oh. Mac has just pointed out that we are the only caravan loading onto this ferry. Surely if it was a bad idea, someone would have told us, turn back now before it's too late. There are quite a few motorhomes and camper vans though.
There are.
You know, I was watching a podcast or listening to a podcast the other day, and it was about a ferry that sank because the cargo doors opened halfway through the sailing.
Not like the Zeebrugge tragedy, was it?
It might have been actually. Here we go.
Oh my god.
Trailer's first time on a ferry.
Okay, we are now on board the ferry. It feels like a tight squeeze, but we are on, and the open sea awaits us.
See you in Ireland, Big Tone.
So impressions of the ferry were really good. There was lots of space and it didn't feel particularly crowded. There was a large cafe and bar, and there was also a recliner lounge and a movie theatre showing a couple of different movies throughout the crossing. Both of those were for an additional charge, and on the return journey the ferry definitely felt a little bit more crowded, so perhaps that recliner lounge, which looked really comfortable, would be a good option if you were interested in paying the extra for that. There was also a small duty-free shop selling a few bits and pieces, and to be honest, on the outward journey we mainly hung around on the deck of the ferry, because we like to, like, you know,
that's the exciting bit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Watching land disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are there sick bags?
Just in
case.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ship has now arrived at the port of Rosslare. Now it's for freight drivers, vehicle drivers and passengers, vehicle non-cargo.
The ferry has docked. We're just waiting to disembark, and we are so excited to be in Ireland. The sat-nav still thinks that we are in Fishguard, and it says that it's going to take us like 10 hours to get there.
Disembarking felt a little less organised. It felt a little bit like a free-for-all, but it was smooth enough, straightforward enough. The ferry terminal at Rosslare is undergoing some improvements, so there is some construction work to dodge on the way out, but it was pretty straightforward.
We're in the EU now. Oh, we're in the EU now.
A quick word about the ferry crossing times from Fishguard to Rosslare because they're not ideal.
They aren't, unfortunately. The sailing is run by Stena Line and there are 2 sailings per day. Now, we travelled in April and we thought perhaps it was a seasonal sailing time and perhaps they might change the times or increase them in busy periods or during the summer, for instance. But we checked today and the timings are the same as when we travelled in April. So there is a 1:30 a.m. sailing that arrives at 5:30 a.m. and there's a 2 p.m. sailing arriving at 5:30 p.m. and the timings the other way, so from Rosslare to Fishguard, aren't great either. So there's a ferry at 8:15 which gets in at 11:45 and a ferry at 7:30 which gets in at 11 p.m, which is the one we took on our return journey. So there's a lot to factor in there when you're thinking about driving to the port and then on to your destination afterwards.
There is a crossing from Pembroke to Rosslare, which is run by Irish ferries, but the times of that are fairly similar, not much better at all, so much of a muchness. However, there are far more route options available if you want to travel from Holyhead to Dublin. There are lots of crossings that are a more sensible and sociable hour. The reason those times are important to consider are that there are limited options in terms of ferry pitches that are easy to get to and use with a caravan, and kind of thinking about the duration of driving that you've got left at the other side to get to your destination and whether you might need a late check-in at a campsite. I think it's fair to say that there are more options if you're in a camper van or a motorhome because you can kind of pull up almost anywhere, but that's not the same when you're in a caravan. There's 3 rate options: economy, flexi and premium. We chose flexi, which gives you the option to make changes without additional fees. Extras include the comfy looking recliner lounge for £18 and various cabin options. For our return trip, we booked an outside cabin for £40. You can also book pet friendly cabins subject to availability.
Once on the open road, the first thing we had to get used to was the fact that all of these speed signs are in kilometres per hour. But luckily for us, our van has a display that pinged up and told us what all of the speed limits were in kilometres per hour and also in miles per hour. And our dashboard shows both, which was very handy.
One thing to consider is that when towing in Ireland, the speed limit on motorways and major roads is only 80 kilometres per hour, which is 50 miles an hour. So that is significantly lower than the speed limit for towing on motorways in this country, for example. So that's definitely something to bear in mind when considering the travel time needed to get from one place to another.
We've been off the ferry for almost an hour now, so driving for about an hour. So far the roads are absolutely beautiful, smooth as anything and traffic free.
One thing we did notice was the frequency of mobile speed cameras. There seemed to be a lot more of them than we would normally experience in the UK, and probably less fixed speed cameras. So you never quite know when they're going to be, so it's really important to keep an eye on your speed.
One of the other lookouts for us was that we'd had some feedback that the roads weren't great for towing caravans, but our experience was almost just the opposite, in that we found that they were great for towing caravans. Even the single carriageways had more space on the left hand side, so you could pull over and let other cars pass much more easily than you can generally on a single carriageway in this country. So we found them absolutely fine.
Yes, some roads can be narrow, but I think that's the case wherever you travel. In England, we've been on some extremely narrow roads, so this was no different. So you do have to watch out for things like tractors, which we did come across once.
Whoa, he says.
Oh, like that.
Tractor.
There was no traffic on the road. We didn't really experience any kinds of traffic jams, apart from the odd cow jam.
The doggo just bringing up the rear, like herding him on, doing a good job. Good job, buddy. Now this might be more of a general tip, but we would definitely recommend having a caravan specific sat-nav. We have a TomTom camper something or other, but it does a fantastic job of planning appropriate routes for us. We have our vehicle dimensions plumbed into it. And one thing just to be aware of is that it will take you on routes that could well be a lot longer, and so more travel time is needed compared to the most direct routes, which may not be suitable for your caravan.
One thing that we weren't expecting and hadn't come up in our research was toll roads. Now, we only came across one, but there are several in Ireland, and they aren't very expensive. The charge ranges between €2 to €3, so just something to be aware of.
So here are just a couple of general observations about travelling in Ireland.
Now, we're always keen to see which places are dog friendly, and a general observation, and this is only for the areas that we were travelling in because that's really all we can speak to, was that they felt less dog friendly than some of the other places that we have visited before. This was particularly evident on some of the walks we were doing in the mountains and things like that, where there were lots of signs that said either no dogs at all on those paths or dogs had to be kept on a lead on those paths at all times. And just generally there seemed to be less dog friendly cafes, bars and restaurants and things like that. But I think the real exception to that, which we absolutely loved, was the place in Cork City, which I've now forgotten the name of.
The Marina Market.
The Marina Marketplace, which was dog friendly and absolutely fantastic.
There were lots of doggos there that we could stroke.
Yeah.
The other thing that really struck us, actually both in our research and when we were in Ireland, is that camper vans and motorhomes are generally much more popular, and that means that there are fewer sites that will actually cater for a caravan compared to the other options available. So definitely do your research, and I think the sites that we picked in that particular area of Ireland were the best options when you're touring with a caravan.
Yeah, and we saw so many beautiful looking campsites, but when we got so excited, we're like, this looks great, let's go and see if we can book it. They only accepted camper vans or motorhomes. So if you're travelling in either one of those, you're in luck, because there were some pretty amazing sites.
Yep.
And, you know, obviously I think we're going to have to plan a trip back with
when we've converted our transporter.
Yeah, definitely.
Stay tuned for that. And just the final general observation, now this won't matter to probably more than 50 or 60% of people, but we're vegetarian and the
pescatarian, we eat fish.
Yeah, we eat fish, yeah, so we're cheating vegetarians. But the options for vegetarians in the area of Ireland that we travelled to were very limited, kind of one thing on the menu, but obviously, yes, being that we eat fish, we had a little bit more choice, especially that enormous fish and chips that I had at the junction in Tipperary.
And if you're going to Ireland, you absolutely must try, like, is it the fish stew?
Oh, the fish chowder.
Fish chowder, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, delicious.
Best thing we've ever eaten.
Absolutely.
On the way home, our ferry wasn't until 7:30 p.m, so we secured a late checkout from our site and hit the road.
It's the end of our adventures in Ireland, and we are on our way back to Rosslare Harbour to catch the ferry to Fishguard in Wales. The ferry leaves at 7:30, check-in closes at 7, and we are on track to get there just before 6 o'clock. We always like to be a little bit early to give ourselves that all-important buffer in case anything goes wrong.
Embarking onto the boat at Rosslare felt like it was a little less of a squeeze. There was a little bit more room, which was brilliant. So we parked up among all of the lorries and other cars, and we headed to reception to collect a key. Oh, hello! Welcome to our cabin. It's not quite a cruise ship, but as this is a late sailing, we're going to be leaving at about 7:30. We get into Fishguard at 11 o'clock at night, and we have an approximately 5 to 6 hour drive on the other side. So we decided to splash out the £40, which I thought was quite reasonable, for our little cabin. So let's give you a bit of a tour. We have 2 bunks, which are nice and big actually. They're nice and wide. The mattress feels okay. I'll try that out in a minute. We have a sea view, if you please. We have a TV, a table, a stool, a mirror, but best of all, which is actually I think quite a bonus on a ferry, we have our own bathroom with a shower. So I think if you're travelling late or you've had a long drive, even on the way out, if you've had a long drive to get to the ferry port, for 40 quid this might well be worth it. £20 each if there's 2 of you. You can have a shower, freshen up before your drive at the other end. So we're going to kick back, relax. I'll see if I can get a few hours sleep before the drive, and we'll see you in a bit.
If you did want to freshen up, then you get a couple of towels, and there is also bedding provided.
So fortunately you do get a ladder with your bunk bed. So I imagine that just hooks on like so. I will take my shoes off before getting in the bed. That would be very bad manners.
We should have thought of this before.
We should have. You could speed this bit up. And here we go. Oh, it's a bit harsh on your feet, that metal ladder. Ow. Oh, crikey. Oh, that's all right, you know. That is all right. Yeah, I think I can get a few hours sleep here. It will only be a few hours. It's a 3.5 hour crossing. But it's better than nothing.
Hi, good evening everyone, this is the captain speaking. Nordica for this evening sailing from Rosslare to Fishguard. Loading has been completed now, we're just preparing the vessel for sea and we should be ready to leave the port in next few minutes.
So by the time we got off the boat, it was approaching midnight, and despite the fact that we had managed to get a few hours of fairly light sleep on the boat, once we'd been on the road for a couple of hours, we started to feel fairly tired. So rather than continuing to drive all the way home while tired, we found a motorway services and pulled over and had another bit of a sleep for a couple of hours. So again, going back to the times of the ferries, that's a kind of an impact on arriving into your destination in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that there are very many ferry pitches that would allow you to arrive at midnight or to depart a pitch at midnight. But if you know of one that would be useful for the route, please do leave it in the comments below. That would be really helpful.
Tips accepted for future trips, definitely. Okay, so time for our top tips to consider when you're taking your caravan to Ireland. And first on our list is documentation. So have a look online and see what you're going to need. But you're definitely going to need to take your V5, your insurance certificate with European cover. We recommend taking your caravan registration documents as well, so you can prove ownership. And breakdown cover, I think, is absolutely essential. There are definitely lots of products available, but we chose to use the red pennant cover with the Caravan and Motorhome Club, which provides for breakdown cover and travel insurance, and we got it for a year because we're also planning a trip to France, so it came in handy for both trips.
In fact, coming up next will be our series following our trip to France and Belgium, and we will go into a little bit more detail there about the reason why that insurance is so needed.
Oh, teaser.
Our next top tip is to pick a ferry crossing route that works with your first sight on arrival or your journey at either end. And that's, you know, really important in terms of arrival times and checkout times and things like that. I think if we were travelling again, we would probably look at doing the Holyhead to Dublin route, just because there were so many more options available for times that were at more reasonable times of the day that would give us more time, to drive to the port in the morning, or then to drive from the port to our first site.
And actually the second site that we stayed at, Glen of Aherlow, is about the same driving time from Dublin as it is from Rosslare, so it wouldn't make much difference. Our third tip is that although it seems like it may be better set up for camper vans and motorhomes, if you do want to take your caravan to Ireland, give it a crack. Just go. We found it absolutely fine. It was a pleasure to tow our caravan in Ireland, and the sites that we found that do accept caravans were wonderful, so give it a go.
It's not a tip, it's more of an encouragement, isn't it?
So,
just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. We absolutely love research and planning, and I would definitely recommend that if you are planning a trip to Ireland, to do your research and book ahead in plenty of time, because the sites that do accept caravans are limited. They're probably a little bit more likely to get booked up ahead of time, and especially during busy seasons. So definitely book ahead for your trip.
And the final tip we would suggest is leaving plenty of time for travelling in Ireland. Being that motorways are less common and dual carriageways are less common, and also being that the speed limit for towing a caravan is less than it is in the UK, things are going to take a little bit longer to get to. So definitely one to bear in mind, leave plenty of time for travel.
Well, there you have it. That is all about taking our caravan to Ireland for the very first time. And you know what? It was surprisingly straightforward. I absolutely love it when you plan a trip, you dream about it, you get excited for it, and then it happens just as you had planned it, and it is every bit as fantastic as you were hoping it would be.
Coming soon, we have another video where we take our caravan abroad. This time we are taking our caravan to France, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile,
thank you so much for watching,
and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye. To the first
island.
First island we can find.
Oh my god, it's like 35 degrees in here. I'm so hot.
Give me some of that. Okay, let's do it.